Howdy folks, Wonderfound back again with a quick little Munlanding demo for you. So what we got here is a standard Kerbodyne Stratos N. Haven't changed anything on the airframe of it. The only change I have made is I pulled off all the Verners, because a few people have said they don't have access to their Verners in their career games, and I've replaced them with some lower tech VTOL jets that are stashed away in the cargo bay. But it takes off easy as usual, and you'll know how this one flies to orbit, so I won't bother following the whole thing for you. We'll just get the nose up a bit, and then up, up, up. There we go. Alright, yeah, nice little view from inside. Always like having the rear-facing camera to show the ground underneath us. Our pilot student, he's looking a bit concerned. What's it like on the other side? Quietly determined, I think. So yeah, it's a balance. Anyway, up to orbit. And so, with any sort of Munlanding ship, if you refuel in orbit, you can do it in something small and sporty like this. You can also get to the Mun and back without an orbital refuel, but in order to do it you need a ship that's twice as big and nowhere near as fun to fly. So orbital refueling is very, very much worth doing if you're getting into space planes, just because it gives them so much more flexibility and so much more range. It's never necessary, but it's always nice to have. Alright, so I'll just show the little docking bit in here. So just... okay, you'll notice how I'm not burning exactly at target retrograde here, because I want to push myself a bit closer into the target. So you see how I'm just going a bit off retrograde, and that's pushing my retro marker onto the target marker. So just down there, get us up a bit, and there we go. I'll just drift in, accelerate this up a touch. So get in quickly. Yep, still too far off to see without the marker on it. But yeah, we'll just zoom forwards. There we go. And again, aiming a bit above retro to push the marker back down onto the target to bring us in on a closer approach. And yeah, even with only the low thrust of the nuke rocket, I've got plenty enough spare thrust to be able to, you know, halt myself nearly instantly coming in here. But this is another case where the combination nuke rapier thing comes in very handy, because if I did, say, misjudge it and send myself flying at the target, then a couple of seconds of rapier thrust and I'll stop myself dead. But yeah, I was going slow enough that a couple of seconds of nuke will do it as well there. So we've just got ourselves parked, pretty much stationary, just last little teensy bit, chug chug, there we go. Okay, now we're parked next to the target, so first thing first is get everybody lined up. So, let's turn that off, open the docking port, get the docking port aligned at the target, make sure that the target is selected as the actual docking port of the target, not the centre of mass of the target. Although I'm going to line them up, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because it's going to be in line. So now we switch over to the other one and get it pointed as well. And as I mentioned before, even though this is quite a chunky space station, you know, there's a fair bit of fuel capacity in there, because it's all one solid lump. It's easy to fling it around. You don't have any of the big space station wobbles that you have if you build a more elaborate structure. So for purely functional purposes, this sort of thing works very well. But we're nearly online there. Okay, and make sure even using MacJeb as the SAS here, making sure to shut it down to kill rotation instead of target after I swap back over, because the setting persists and you don't want the thing you're trying to dock with suddenly deciding to reposition itself just as you're about to target it. But once again, the internal RPM docking is my favourite way of doing it. So I'll just go inside, we switch the reference part to the docking port, instead of the cockpit, and then we'll flick the camera over to docking view, and you can see there we're all lined up already. So this is just a simple matter of charge straight in. So you can see at the top of the docking camera screen there's some velocity figures. So I'm coming in, I'm accelerating in, getting up to close to around 1 meter a second, a bit less than that. We're about 35 meters off, and now we're getting close enough in that I've got my little velocity and distance markers in the bottom, and just little teensy taps of RCS as we come in. If you hit the RCS when you're translate to adjust your trajectory as you're further out, same as with orbiting things, a small amount of thrust early on has the same effect as a large amount of thrust later on. So especially in the early stages you only need teensy little taps on the RCS. As you get in closer, then because it's got less time to take effect, you need to be a bit more vigorous if you're manoeuvring sharply. But doing fine here, charging on in, and time to hit the brakes because we want to actually contact it fairly low pace. Okay, over-braked a bit there, stopped entirely, but we can just start pushing forwards again. Tap, tap, tap to line up. And yeah, and this is all, I haven't been using time acceleration for this, so the entire docking process done very, very quickly and easily. Nearly there, nearly there. We're down to 2.5 meters. And yeah, this is effortless. Even though I've got the nav ball up to the left, I haven't even been looking at the nav ball here. All I'm looking at is the video picture and just keeping that little square and crosshairs in the middle of the docking port. It's simple as. Alright, close enough in. Be wanting to deactivate RCS and the SAS soon so they don't fight back once the magnets grab us, which they're about to do any second now. There we go, magnets on. Whoosh. Bingo. And we're locked in. Docked already. Easy as pie. How's it look? Where am I going for? Yeah, still can't see anything from the cameras, but there we can see. So, nicely docked up, all refueled. So we've disconnected, backed off, gave us a little bit of distance, so just so we've got some clearance when we head off for the Munar burn. I hope we gave ourselves enough distance here. Yeah, you can see the distant object enhancement is kicking in again on this. It gives you much nicer visuals as you're flying up to approach things and zoom past them. And speaking of zoom past, yeah, it's far enough, but yeah, we could possibly have used a bit more distance for safety. But we're all doing cool. Okay, so the actual Munar transfer is about 700 to 750 meters a second. Catching and landing when you get there is substantially more. It's not a huge amount to get back into orbit, so a few thousand meters a second will do you to the moon and back. Like you could possibly get away with 2,000, maybe 3,000 is a lot safer. But I've switched to the Munar view here because, okay, even though I was letting MechJeb do the basic transfer, but MechJeb likes to send you on a collision course at the centre of mass of your target. So I cut off the MechJeb transfer just before it finished, and this last little bit I'm just using taps on RCS to fine tune it. So you can see I can bring my periaps down to exactly whichever altitude I want, and we're coming in fairly nice and equatorial too. And if we were stuck in a polar orbit on this and didn't want it, then again it would be easy with just a few taps on RCS here to swing it around the other way. So, how to land a spaceplane on the moon. I'm doing this with my de-Verned version, but the technique is the same if you're using my usual Verned VTOLs. So we'll set up for a relatively flat place to land, with a coming in relatively shallow, and then it's mostly about killing your orbital speed rather than killing your altitude. So you want to get yourself shallow but not hitting the ground, and then just adjust the pitch of your nose so that you can decelerate without dropping too much altitude. So I'm losing a bit here, about 50 meters a second, but I've got 2.5 kilometers to spare, so there's plenty of altitude underneath me. And okay, you can do all this manually by hand, but I'm doing it with the MechJeb Smart ASS here just because it makes it clearer what I'm doing. Okay, it'll make it really obvious what I'm intending the nose of the plane to point at. So we're on surface velocity minus here, so that's different from orbital velocity in that it doesn't take account of the spin of the planet because you don't want it to here. Well, it does take account of the spin of the planet rather. And yeah, that's about it really. How are we looking from inside? Yeah, nice view out there. Little nuclear glow behind us, we bring our own sun. Okay, set up the landing assistant. There it goes, that's a better spot for it. Give it a bigger screen. Yeah, rearranged nicely there. Anyway, that was just killing time really while I'm burning off this speed. The Kerbal flight indicators also comes in handy here. You can see my little yellow prograde marker showing the actual bit of dirt that I'm going to hit. Alright, we were getting a bit low there, so I've just kicked the rapiers in for a second, just to give us a bit of bonus thrust, so we don't whack into the ground, because what we're aiming to do here is to come to essentially land 100 meters off the ground. We want to come to a dead stop just off the deck, exact same as you would if you were landing normally. Then once you have come to pretty much a stop, spin around, get yourself flattened out, and pointing in the direction of any residual movement you've got. Because when you land, you don't want yourself to be going sideways, because then your landing gear would, struggle. So I'm just switching around to horizontal velocity plus here, so get ourselves flat, get the wings level, and yeah, point the way that you're going. Ideally you want to be completely zeroed out, but it's tricky to get that done and you probably won't manage it. You'll probably have a meter or at least a couple of meters a second still going in one direction. But now I've flicked in the VTOL rockets. This is just a bunch of those little Rockomax radials stuck into the cargo bay and carefully arranged so that there's zero torque from them. They're arranged around centre of mass. But it's coming on down, a little quick zap from the thrust, just controlling our descent rate. And you can see the little prograde marker on the ground moving as we do that. So as we reduce our descent rate, our little bit of forward momentum starts having more effect because it has more time to take action. But what I'm actually looking to do is just put us down flat here, so 70 meters. But overdid a bit, going up a touch there. And alright, just a little bit of tilt to get us go in the direction I want, and zap up the thrusters again, 5 meters a second. Okay, a little partial thrust. The aircraft landing gear can actually take quite a solid hit. The danger in landing too hard on them isn't that you'll break your landing gear, it's that you'll tip after landing and smack a wing. So even on a gentle landing like that, you do need to be ready on the roll controls just to keep your wings safe. But there, simple, straightforward. It's really not that hard. And let's have a look how we're doing. So we've got down, would we be able to get back up again? So, yeah. So still got 2,000 meters a second in the back. That is plenty enough to get back into lunar orbit and fly back to Kerbodyne and come down at KSC. So there you go. You don't need a specialist super duper built for a spaceplane. A very small sporty thing can manage it, so long as it's got a nuke. If you don't have the nuke, then you'll need something bigger, and if you don't refuel in orbit, you'll need something bigger again. But spaceplanes to the moon is definitely doable. It's a little bit tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy.